Where do altcoins at this point fall into your mental model?
What you want to do is look at things versus Bitcoin and see where things are. Now, ETH has always been very interesting to me because the whole down cycle, it didn't do the down 90% versus Bitcoin. Many of the existing alts do, because we know it's a massive ecosystem. Also, ETH, everything changed for me when it got deflationary in large activity, because actually the biggest activity is in a bull market, so it becomes scarcer in a bull market. That's like, okay, nobody really thought that one through. The other thing is it now has a yield, and if you think of institutions, they like things with yields, so they don't like gold because it doesn't have a yield. ETH does. So ETH has been actually my bigger bet, but I've recently been switching into Solana as my bet.
Can't be mad about that. I don't know when you started recently, but
I just had the feeling, and I looked at the chart and I saw the Solana ecosystem, and you throw all the worst news possible and it's the worst Sam coin, and just the
I was just going to say the best argument for Solana is it isn't dead.
That's right. And then I saw people like Tolly, who's Anatoly. He's just classy. Yeah. He's just so good. And I'm like, okay, this is really interesting. I'd met him previously and saw the kinds of people he was involved with. And then I learned about, I don't know if have you gone down this Fire Dancer rabbit hole yet?
I haven't really gone public. Only very superficially.
I have not gone really public on it. I hadn't even heard about it, but I went to Mainnet, and there's Colleen from Brevin Howard, who's a good friend and an amazing person. She was on stage, and she was like, Fire Dancer, that's obviously a big bet that we've got that we think is really important. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about, Colleen. But she knows a lot of stuff I don't know. So I'm like, okay, fine. And then Anatoly comes up and he's speaking and he starts talking about Fire Dancer and, we think it can do 600,000 to 1.2 million TPS. And that, I'm like, what? And I was thinking at the time, maybe it's some sort of layer 2 blah 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 compromise. So I went back home, I was looking at the charts, which I have been for a long time, of Solana versus ETH and Solana versus Bitcoin. I'm like, this looks like a fucking rocket ship. What is going on here? And so I started looking in and watching the interviews with the Jump trading team who built Fire Dancer, and realized it was a separate validator for ETH, actually, for Solana. That actually increases the security of the entire chain itself. And that, yes, these speeds were right because it was being built by people who were trying to build light speed for high frequency trading. And, Tolly's going, yeah, this is the real deal. This is what we should have done in the first place. And I'm like, okay, this is huge.
I mean that solves the trilemma. Like, we've never heard of a coin where you can get better security with faster speed, right?
No. And the speed here, I mean, just think of the quantum this is. So we've got Solana at supposedly 65,000 TPS. We've got a layer 2 like Polygon at about the same, but less secure than a layer 1. Okay, fine. This is a layer 1 of Solana that does 20x. So they're saying it's fast enough to run the entire securities industry. Twitter only runs at 24,000 TPS. So you can run all of social media, you can run high frequency trading, you can do anything. So all I think is use case. Use cases explode. And it just becomes very interesting. So that's why I'm very bullish in all of that.
I haven't gone down the Fire Dancer rabbit hole. I wonder when they started working on it. I've done quite a few podcasts and conversations with Tolly, and many months ago, I asked him, can we do the one chain to rule them all thing, or do we need to live in a multi-chain world with interoperability? And he very quickly said, nope, Solana can do it all. Because I have no doubt we can live in a one-chain world. We can do all of it. I'm not saying that I believe that necessarily, because I don't think Ethereum's going anywhere and Bitcoin's still a chain, right? And maybe there'll be some other winners, I think, in different niches. But his confidence that was possible by what he saw coming is pretty, will give you pause.
Yeah, I think, it's a very, very big deal. Chris Boniski phrased it well, the guys at Placeholder VC, that they were saying, if you think of ETH as the Android economy, so it's a big open source network that you can do lots of different things with, and Solana is more like Apple. It's like a single operating system, but a very good one. And those, your Android phone can speak to your Apple phone. So, it all works in the end.
Yeah, and some of the massive criticism for Solana obviously was that it was a VC token and it was the familiar names. And of course, the Sam coin, I think a lot of that has been washed out. I don't think that that is really true at this point, even of who's holding the supply. I could be wrong, but it feels like there was a reckoning in the last year.
Yeah, and look, I could be wrong too. It may not be the great bet. I may be a complete moron, and I'm more than happy to be the moron. To me, I'm looking at risk rewards here, and I'm just thinking, could this be the ETH of this cycle? That's not taking away from ETH. It's not taking away from Bitcoin. What we're trying to do is, if we're in this ugly economic world, you want to try and make as many chips as possible when you can. That's the game. Now, you could be the Bitcoin maximalist who says, I don't want to keep all the chips. I just want the chips that I want. And that's okay too. There's no problem with those different worlds.
Do you think that these institutions are taking a small bet that this could be the thing? Or do you think that they're betting that this will be the thing?
So I know all of these people. I know them personally. They all know it's everything.
Okay, good.
But firstly, and the people who are building it there are not some evil finance people. They really care about it.
Yeah.
And they really care about this space. They're in it because they truly believe in it. Abigail Johnson at Fidelity truly believes in it. These people truly believe in it. So what they've got the issue with is regulation is slowing them down. And size of the market is still too small. It needs to be of a certain size before many of these large pools of capital can use it. It's like I've got an asset management business called Exponential Asset Management, and it's a fund of hedge funds. It invests in lots of different hedge funds. So the hedge fund space in the traditional markets, $4 trillion. That's why traditional markets are really deep. They've got lots of liquidity. You can get shit done. The entire size of the hedge fund industry in crypto is $6 billion.
I didn't know the number, but that's, yeah.
And which is why retail are all of the liquidity. And, in the end, we need these institutions. That'll get rid of some of the volatility. Yes, it'll lower the returns, but we'll get the return cycle. But we can't have such illiquid markets driven by some random trading firm out of Hong Kong, or that we don't trust. It's like this has to stop. We need proper capital in the space. Putting that capital in the space will have a multiplier effect, so everyone's going to get rich as that capital comes in, but we need it.
Does the ETF solve that partially? I'm assuming you're of the opinion that this is inevitable. I am. The way that obviously Larry Fink is out there, on his roadshow, I can't imagine he's just doing that for fun or for his health. Do you think that solves some of this? And then I guess as a corollary, what would you consider a successful or failed launch of the Bitcoin spot ETF at this point?
So look, that's just part of the trade agreements going to come from TradFi to crypto economy. Just as this is one of them. The ETH spot ETF will happen as well.
Of course.
It'll be later, and everyone's going to, as soon as the Bitcoin one are done, they'll front run it by going to the ETH one because they know that's the next one. We will see that. We will see, the rise of the hedge fund industry, the capital coming in, the pension funds coming in. Matt Halstead and Mike from Texas Teachers are kind of showing the way and how that's done. So they're all coming, and it will all happen over time. The Bitcoin ETF, I don't think of it as a one-off event.
I agree.
People are thinking of it as like this liquidity injection into the crypto economy, and I'm saying it's a trade agreement. Trade agreements really start working when people are starting to get return on their capital in that new economy, and then they pile in.